Here we go. Good things in frame here. All right. Just my light. Yeah, looks good. Looking good. Hey everybody, Mike McWilliams, upstairs to the right music channel. We are finally live again here again after a little bit of a break. Yeah, it was a tough break. We'll get into that, but yeah, it's good to be able to spend a little time this evening, a little early this evening, or because I haven't been well. So I'm doing it an hour earlier this week. We should be, with all fingers crossed, probably pretty much the way I'm feeling now. I'm feeling better now. Um, uh, by next week, we should be back on a normal schedule. So uh, I'm sucking on Loginger right now because I haven't spoken a lot in the last few days. I said, oh my gosh, I got to go live and talk a lot. And I can barely, I sound like Froggy from our gang comedies. um, yeah, guys, had a rough week. I was ill pretty seriously this time. Uh, and that's going around actually in YouTube land here. There's quite a few guys, channels who they've been ill. I don't know what's up with that. It's just one of those things. But yeah, pretty rough, pretty rough. But I am on the mend. I'm feeling a little bit better. I will continue to take it easy. Um, but it was a harrowing experience. It takes a lot from you mentally. It's not just the physical pain when you're ill like that. It's also the mental anguish and things like that. And when when you're in that kind of situation, the best thing I say, music's always been a really good guide for me. It's weird. I've done some composing, some of my best song composing when I wasn't feeling well, just as a way to distract myself from whatever it was that was ailing me. And so, yeah, you know, sorry, I'm going to take this out. It's getting a little bit of a nuisance to talk with that. Yeah, it really kind of guides me through, keeps me focused. So I did have that. I had a lot of things to think about as I was on the road to recovery. Last a Friday a week ago, I took a trip down to see Barry Whittigan in Utrecht. To make a deal with him, I swapped some of my vintage gear, plus the little bit of money I had, not a lot actually, saved up in my guitar fund, and got the opportunity to get my hands on the Joe Bonamassa 335. And it's kind of a funny story if you know anything about European football. You know that this is the time for that. This is the season for that. And when I went down to see Barry, I decided to carry it back with me. I didn't want to ship it. I had it wrapped up, and its case was wrapped in cellophane, and it had that kind of coverage. But that was about it. And I got down to the train station to come back to Amsterdam, and I got up to the top of the platform, and to my horror, I realized that around this was around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that all these football fans were heading in my direction towards Amsterdam to go to the stadium to watch the games being beamed in on the screen. It's in Qatar, but in any case, they were all they were down there. And you know, I keep a first class ticket, you know, myself, so that I can at least sometimes try to make sure that I get a seat. But in this kind of situation, when it's like this, it is literally a free for all. It's who can stuff themselves into this train and who's going to have to wait for the next one. And I've got my brand new Joe Budden Monster 335. Thing is as tall as me in its case. You know, I've got man, that was quite an adventure. Now, by the time, unfortunately, they weren't coming all the way to Amsterdam. They were just going to the stadium, about two stops. So in total, it was four stops. So halfway there, they got off. So it wasn't that bad, that long. But yeah, it was. I'm sitting there hugging my thing like this, saying, "Oh, you guys, please." You know, I'm glad that it was wrapped so there was no scuffs, no nothing like that, because we're talking about, you know, a packed train of giants. You know, and so yeah, that's the story of how I got that guitar home. But unfortunately, after that, I knew that that morning when I woke up that I was unwell. But you know, sometimes everybody always says this that, hey, greetings, thank you, greetings, greetings. You know, everybody always says to you, listen to yourself, that those adages, things like that. And your body will tell you what's going on, and that's all great, and then life happens and you're trying to do all these other things, and you forget that adage, and I forgot that. It's a lesson that you learn a few times until you get it knocked into your head. And unfortunately, it seemed like I still had one in me because I pushed myself that Friday. So hey, Mickey, check it out. Look what finally got Kevin waiting for you to show up so I can show you this box. Guys, it took a great deal of time for this wonderful gift from Mickey to show up. I appreciate that. Oh, well, yep. At last. Yeah. At last. Yeah, so it finally showed up at last. Yeah, I appreciate this. And what's going to happen is, um, probably tomorrow, if I'm feeling up to it, if I can, or Tuesday, I'll go down to Fern and get this in his hands, and it will get slotted in. So thank you so much, man. That is quite a beautiful gift, by the way, for you to give. I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to finally try out a pickup from Bare Knuckle. I've been reading about bare knuckle pickups from the UK for a long time. Everybody knows them. I've had Croatian pickups. I've had, of course, American, Indonesia. I've had all pickups from everywhere. But to actually have, how are you feeling now? Yeah, thank you, Mickey. But to actually have give a shot of this in that telly neck position, Mickey, I appreciate this. Yeah, I was just saying, yeah. So Friday, yeah, I went and I picked up that Joe Bonamassa 335 from Barry Witt, and I knew my body was telling me that morning that I wasn't right, and that maybe you need to sit yourself down and do this another day. I know you want to get this done because you have this in, you're going up, and this, that, and the other, but I unfortunately pushed myself and put me in a really bad spot. I was sick I just today is the first honest pain-free day that I've had since a week ago Friday. So yeah, going to like 8, 9 days now. So yeah, and I had to unfortunately go to the ER because the pain, and they put me on a drip. I don't like drugs and things like that, guys, but it did help. And unfortunately, uh, with this condition that I have, it really is down to me. It's kind of like epilepsy. It's one of those things that's up to me. I have to not push myself. It's not kind of like it is a type of epilepsy. So if I feel those triggers coming on, then I need to really just draw it back. And like I said, we all have heard those old adages, just listen to yourself that bad, But like I said, life happens. But fortunately, I am on the mend. I can always tell when I've crossed back over to being back on the mend again, and I can feel it in myself. I was able to go out on a Friday and Saturday to this just last Friday and Saturday out to a cabin out near the German border in order to try to take in fresh, mountain air, walk in the woods, drink spring water, just try to rehabilitate myself. And it's a real blessing to be able to do that because it did have a great effect. I can't believe how I feel today. The difference between how I feel today and how I felt this way last week is incredible. So that was a good thing. A lot of cool albums. I don't know if you guys saw my shorts. I've got another one I'm going to post. But the owners of this cabin, they have a huge LP collection and of original versions. The first releases of a lot of LPs, and to be able to go through a LP collection. Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this one, and you guys know what I mean. It's kind of like. As I was talking to my friend Pia Shitsu, we were talking about it. It's like thumbing through memories, your parents' memories, because of these albums that my parents had, the ones that I grew up that my parents had when they were doing their thing, and it was a great thing to be able to thumb through real. It's been a long time. Here in Amsterdam, there are a lot of vinyl record shops, and this experience this weekend, the last few days, has encouraged me that I'm going to start getting my vinyl collection back again. I'm going to start building it back again, and because I probably find just about all the stuff that I had as a kid. So yeah, that's kind of funny. I gotta get a vinyl player. Don't have one, but we'll cross that bridge in a minute. But yeah, guys, I'm feeling better. Speaking of going down to Barry Whit, and like I've said, in order to do that deal to get that 335, so I got the Bonamassa 335. In order to do that deal, I traded in some of my vintage gear and the few bucks that I had in my account, and there was gear that Barry had an interest in, and he was interested in doing the deal, so it worked out. And so that was cool. But it was this synergy of Joe Bonamassa things going on in that period. I was talking to Bear. We did the interview. I got the 335, and then also during that week, Joe came out and said, "I'm quitting social media," which I say bravo. There's there are guys who came out and criticized it. Well, if you're not, basically to boil down the arguments that I heard, if there is really true argument against leaving social media. It's like, again, proving my point that, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And the social media certainly falls under that category, in my opinion. But basically saying to him, if you're not man enough to take the heat, get out of the kitchen or whatever. It's like, you do. No, it's a stupid prize you win for for dubious rewards. Social media can be sad, so depressing with all the trolls. Yeah, well, Yeah, you get a lot of trolls when you do a YouTube channel like mine. I don't know if you guys ever go down the comment section, but you get some trolls. I had some heavy trolls when I first started. I had a guy from day one, literally from day one, who was trolling me. I don't know. I finally had to block him. And Pehan, I don't know if you remember that guy because Pehan was there in the beginning too. When you hear this in the replay, hit down in the comment section if you remember who this guy was. But yeah, he was just trolling me from the beginning. But you kind of grow a thick skin too. But I'll allow the YouTube thing because I think that the benefits of what you get at if you're going into YouTube for fame and fortune, good luck with that. But if you're trying to build a community to try to share some things and try to play for something forward, maybe those things will come, maybe they won't. But one thing for sure, you're doing the right thing. So. Um, if you let the trolls get to you in YouTube, you got to kind of balance that off because there's more good to it, in my opinion. But in Joe's case, he doesn't need it. He didn't build his audience from social media anyway. He did it the old-fashioned way. He went through the club circuit. I went through the club circuit. If I had stayed in Japan, I would build up my band and I would have gone in that direction too. But you don't have that. I think recently there was a short I saw where he was saying that he fears that circuit doesn't exist anymore. He's actually kind of right. A way of building your audience that way. So it doesn't make him or break him, to be honest. And I say good to him. But one other thing that I did notice when I was doing, because I don't buy anything, just I put a lot of thought before I made the trade for some of my pedals and some cash with this 335. Um, and I saw Joe talking about the 335. And by the way, I will, here it is. So this is the Bonamassa 335. So anyway, I brought it out. This is going to be a case queen. So don't, don't expect to see that out very often. But when he was talking about this guitar in an interview, one of the first things that he started off was, well, I know that people are saying that it's a lot of money. And I kind of picked up on that because I could feel, I never bought anybody's signature guitar before ever. I'm going to throw that out there, by the way. This is my first signature guitar. And by the way, the only reason I like it as a signature guitar is because his signature is nowhere on it. If you didn't know this from any other 335, you would have no idea it had anything to do with Joe Bonamassa. And I kind of like that about it, actually, to be honest. I like the fact that it could be you. You can make it you. You can make it yours. But the case, of course, but you can swap cases. But in any case, that's the only way on this thing where his name really appears. But he didn't start making these guitars initially to get to this point. He was lamenting the fact that he used to say when he first started doing these Epiphone releases, you have to remember he would say specifically, I'm doing this for the kids. I want to do this for the kids. This is something that I want to get the best guitar that I can into kids' hands. And he would say that, and a lot of people would take a little bit of offense for that. They would say, hey, wait a minute, I'm a grown man and I play, Joe Bonamassa's live with my band every Saturday night, such and such. I'm certainly not a kid, but that's not what he was saying. He wasn't. He was saying he was trying to get the best guitar together at the lowest price that he could, so he could get them to to kids so that they could experience what he did, because his dad was a guitar collector. He started out really with great guitars. Joe Bonamassa really started out with great guitars, or he was surrounded by it. He's lived it and breathed it his entire life. So, but he wanted to get the experience of having what he considered to be something he thought of quality he could put his name on and get it out to the quote unquote kids. What he meant was the price. When they began to creep up in value and it became not possible, certainly in the case of this one, which I believe is at this moment, maybe as Terrell, that'll change, one of the most expensive. Joe does his thing the right way. He just does it for the music and love. That's what I'm saying, guys. Dig that. That's the point. That's the extent of the love in his heart I'm talking about. That you can if you listen to what he said when he started out. I know that this is, people say this is expensive, but then he goes on to say, okay, it's just the way it is because inflation, and he's right, and it's just the way it is. Okay, for that kind of money, at least I'm going to try to give you the best that I can, and he really did. And this guitar delivers. I'll give my review, certainly a full review on it in my own unique way. Um, Coming up here, but I will just, the short of it is that it is as fine of a 335 as you're going to get. And why is that? Um, with a standard 335 from Gibson, you're going to get a 3-ply body, and that's going to be maple, popular, and maple. And they do that by gluing the popular, and they basically make a sandwich. So it's meat, cheese, and meat. Let's just talk it like that. Meat, cheese, meat. And that is how a 335 from Gibson is constructed. Now, it's interesting that in the early 335s, they started to increase the amount of plies up to 4, even up to 5, because they found that 3-ply eventually, over time, begins to crack near the volume knobs, because it just sets the view of people moving those knobs, and it starts to develop cracks. And I've actually seen that happen in some older ones. I've seen examples of that. So they started moving up to 4-ply, 5-ply. Why current Gibsons at $3,500 employ this 3-ply, which I understand that is the classical way that it was made. True, however, even then during that time, within a year or two after that, they begin to increase the amount of ply that they use. Well, in the case of the Joe Bonamassa 335, it's a 5-ply. So, but it's all maple. So it's meat, 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 meat. If I keep this sandwich analogy going. And a 5-ply top that at a weight of what was it, 3 point, I can't remember what it was in kilogram, 3.4 something. It was remarkably light. It is very well constructed in that regard. That's a little extra that I think a lot of people don't talk about, is the fact that this is a 5-ply maple top. And we talked about that before. Maple is maple. There's different geniuses of maple out there. Regardless, this one is not laminate, and it's actually very interesting. Got a lot of movement into it. So there's those little extras that he decided to put into it. The vibrola, I'm not a big vibrola guy, but it does. I can't believe it, because I really wonder what it was like, and to be able to now to be able to really take a good look at it and inspect it is actually, it's not bad. I have no use for it, and I thought at first that it would get on my nerves, but it actually is growing on me. It actually looks kind of cool. And yeah, so, but it's going to be a case queen. I'm going to be quite frank with you. And that goes, and that's the antithesis of what Joe wanted. Now, I mean, I will play it when I have a need for those Busberger 2 and 3s. If I say the song calls for that and I want to try a 335 sound on something, then I will pull it out and use it. But for the most part, no, it won't be something that'll be out every day because let's just be honest, it is a very expensive guitar that will probably, in all probability, continue to go up in price. So best to keep those as case queens. And that is again the antithesis of what he wanted. That's not the kids. That's going to old fogies like me, which, you know, yeah, I can see it from his perspective that could suck because he really does try to give. He really gives a lot. Joe's a solid guy, and anybody out there who says otherwise, I don't know what to say to you. Through his just if you take 5 minutes to really look into the things that he does, you know, he's really about the music and he's about the gear. And my gosh, he can't do anything but respect. And he's about people. And so you can't really but respect that. So yeah, dig that. A lot of things with Joe, a lot of synergy in this week, you know, with Joe Bonamassa. I was, um, I'll end it out by saying that it is a fine Epiphone. Epiphone really is stepping up their game. And, you know, while I was laying there on the table, getting that drug drip into my arm, sorry. Of course, my thoughts started, and I was in agony. Of course, my thoughts started turning towards Gibson. I think I was in the proper state to turn my eyes sideways upon them. And so, my next topic that I'm going to talk about is this one. And I was thinking about it as I was, no, I was contemplating it this week that, you know, if you think back, hey, good evening. Welcome. I'm glad you made it. If you think back, guys, back to, you know, I'm going to get into Gibson again because, you know, why not? There's so many examples of where you could see. I like this. Sometimes I kind of talk about it because I admire it a little bit. You know, we all saw Professor Moriarty. We all saw Professor Moriarty as, of course, Sherlock Holmes' nemesis, but we all have to say we rooted for him sometimes. You know, even Palpatine gets my admiration from time to time, and Vader as well. And so Gibson sometimes, you know, I'm like, you know, that was pretty smart how they did that because if you think back to the 50s, let's go back to the 50s and let's go back to the original Les Pauls. Let's get back to Les Pauls. And the 58, the 59s, and the 60s, the coveted ones. And when they were selecting woods for the tops, or, you know, because it was two-piece tops, that's, you know, that's how, you know, how they roll. Sometimes, I can't remember, is it one piece or two? Anyway, it really, the custom. Anyway, you guys get the point. When it came to the tops, they would create these tops from a stock that they got from a supplier. So, in other words, they looked at the course of the year and they did a cost analysis of how many guitars and the cost of the wood that they had, the wood that they prefer to have, what was the cost of that, the wood the supplier could get, and maybe something in between. And that's how they did business. They didn't, so when that wood came in, of course, within that stock of woods, that stock of maple and those Brazilian rosewoods and those other ones, there were certainly some that were superior to others. Of course, that's how it is in nature. You know, especially if they bought a lot that came from the same growth. But in any case, or in some of the cases, a lot of that wood was older than that. It was already 100 years old. You know, so they created these guitars just based on the supply that they had. And that's why some of the tops for these now legendary 58s, 59s, and 60 guitars are more coveted than others. They have because they had a little more extra, they would be considered premium above the others, in that, but they came out of the factory, it was catch. You got a good top, you got a good top. If you didn't, you didn't. It was just kind of where it went. And I thought about that and I said, that's interesting. So, even at that time, they could, of course, they had some like the L5, which were considered premium. So they had good woods that they'd set aside for that. But when it came to the mass productions of their electrics, no, that there wasn't a consideration. It was, this is the stock that we have. Some of them are going to have great tops, some are going to match tops, some of them aren't. And then that's just the way it is. And it's going to be luck of the draw. And the consumer benefited from that because of that luck of the draw. That doesn't mean that the ones that had the great tops on them were great guitars, or some of the ones that had plainer tops were maybe some of the better players. However, however, or they started out and got painted as gold tops. However, when you move forward in time into the 90s and the introduction, not so sure about that. On the 60s, at least, I had the Maple up to there. They were given to Les Paul. Yeah, sure. No, I got you there. And like I said, um, let's keep it in the frame of mind where I'm saying that there was no special orders. Is where I'm heading with it. There was no quote unquote custom shop. At that period of time up until 1960. It really was some one-offs. That's the story behind the Amos Joe Bonamassa guitar. It just happened to go to that one guy out there, that dealer, and he's got the picture of himself holding it back there in the 50s, and it went to the dealer. And so no, I'm saying that it was kind of catch can. It wasn't a formulated thing that it's become. When you go into the 1990s, you start to see the custom shop arrive, and then you start to see this segregation of tops. Actually, you see it a little bit earlier than that with the Premium Plus guitars. I owned a Premium Plus guitar, Gibson from 1993, was it, or so. And so you began to see this delineation of grades of wood that did not exist per se in the marketing formulations of that period. And so I have to admire that. Um, cherry sunburst on the lesser wood. Cherry sunburst on the lesser wood. That was the thing with the Les Paul classics. I said we talked about Sammy Ash, Elliot Easton, got together and made the decision to take that lesser wood and to create that line. And they shot it all 6 ways of Sundays, all different kinds of colors. So it was again another situation where there was no such thing as a good wood. At that time, that was considered to be the lesser wood. But no, but there is a definitive, and then again, that's where I said the water started getting murky in the 90s like that. If you go back into the late 50s, we don't have that kind of the delineation happening. Excuse me, guys. My tongue is learning how to work again. And so it's a master stroke on Gibson's part to come up with the custom shop. Because of that, however, I feel that it's kind of the argument of that the customer shop really, if I really were to argue it in a court, I would say, so you're saying me that your USA standard that's produced next door is an inferior product to your custom shop. And so you're saying to me that you're arguing that, you're creating a product that you're promoting as somehow superior, but you're also promoting a more superior product within the same marketplace. And by doing that, like I said, in the 90s, it began to muddy the water. You guys see? Do you guys understand my argument there? That the custom shop, if you really think about it, uh, could be construed as a sort of self-defeating thing, because we as consumers, we could say, well, wait a minute, back in the 50s, I, as a regular guy, if I bought my Les Paul, my 58 or my 59 or my 60, I had just as much chance as anybody else is getting one with a great top. Whereas now I have to pay extra in order to get guaranteed a great top, or even more than that, for what they start getting into 4A, 5A, And so yeah, it's genius. It's empire-ish, and I don't mean the yeah. I'm talking about Palpatine's empire. Yeah, it's insidious, but I think it does. And please argue on prove me wrong, or tell me what you guys think. This was a topic, because as you know, I always try to think of a topic to present every week. And this one literally came to me as I was recovering, that are they cheating the guy who wants to, and I've seen, don't get me wrong, I've seen some great tops on the Les Paul standards. Certainly the standard 60s that I had, the 2019, that had a beautiful top. It was the reason I grabbed for it over the 50s that Barry had. He had two of them. He had the 50s, and he had that standard 60s. I went for the 60s because I love that top. Anthony, my man, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Good evening. And I'm not saying they didn't have a beautiful top. However, what I am saying is that I've been told that still is an inferior top to what's available for $2,000 more from a custom shop, and it really starts to get into levels things. My 2010 Les Paul Traditional has a fantastic, yeah. Again, everybody said, and here that's another thing that's interesting to me regarding those 2019s that I had, like the one that I had, is that year 2019, 2020 seemed to be the year that everybody says that Gibsons were good. They said after that they've gone kind of down the toilet again in terms of tops and things of that nature. I think sometimes it's weird. It's like they do the right thing for about a year. I guess beauty eye of the beholder. Yeah, true too, because you have to decide to yourself what you consider to be a beautiful top and what. I actually like a plainer top. I find a plainer top to be kind of sexy. I don't like a lot of pinstripes. I do like a lot of wave and movement. But if it's a 335, then of course, if it's something that's supposed to be jazzy, then of course I would like to see a lot of movement in it. But I like a plain top myself. So, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, however, that's not the issue. The issue is the 59 being the guitar is a myth. I played 59 and it was another guitar. I wouldn't have said the guitar, but you have heard it. Yeah. I played, I played my luthiers. I've played a 52, a 56, and a 60. I've had the opportunity to play those, and I agree with your summation. Although I have to say that 52 P90, that was a screamer. That was a rock and roll guitar. I don't know if it was $60,000 worth of rock and roll guitar, but that's what they were trying to get for it. So there's that too. But did you try any of the standard Epiphone for the 5? Oh, Mickey, beautiful. Yeah, you can get me off this Gibson rant. Thank you, Mickey. I appreciate that. Let's take the exit. off this off ramp and get into that. Yes, I did. So yeah, guys, that's where I was I wanted to get into that because I filmed myself a little bit, but then I started feeling so well I couldn't film it the way that I wanted to down there because I wanted to do there in the shop, where I filmed myself showing you going through the 335 that you get from Epiphone, the standard 335, the even the Gibson 335, because he has a few of those, and the Joe Bonamassa, and making statements of trying to really explain. Anyway, gotta go. Hey man, you take care, brother. I'm so glad that you came and appreciate it. Yeah, guys. It's construction. It really comes down to that, and it does. But just because something looks like something, it is not true. And that Epiphone 335 that I had, the Raspberry, I believe they call it Raspberry Burst. Had that. Had them. I got to hold them all of relative. Actually, believe it or not, the lightest of all of them was this Bonamassa 335. But I like Epiphone's pickups. As you know, I'm a big proponent of the Alnico Pro 2s. I are classic pros, whatever they are. But in any case, I like their pickups. So that wasn't an issue, and you know how I feel about the burst buckles. No, it's an issue of construction, guys. Really, the construction on this Epiphone 335 by Bonamassa is by far superior. The minute you hold it in your hand, you can feel. It's what I talk about gravitas. Guitar of certain quality. There's something that you can feel it, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about, and that's a bit automatically apparent. 3-ply, 5-ply construction. That's a big thing. With the one-piece neck, the construction on this thing, I think adds to that. No, it's not an issue of taking those and upgrading it. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing at all because the guts, the construction, the neck, the ply, the binding, it's all a little bit different. Sorry I'm late. Took my kids to see the Rockets. That's great, man. That's awesome. I went to Radio City Music Hall in 1979 to see the Rockettes. I went to I was at night. It was 79. My father took us all to New York City. Flew from LA to New York to see them at the Radio City Music Hall. Dig that. First time I went to New York. Interesting in the 70s. Yeah, what a show. Yeah, man. Yeah, you imagine me. How old was I? So I was 12 years old. You know, great musician. Yeah, I'm 12 years old and I'm sitting there, and my dad got us great tickets, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, I'm blown away because I've never seen anything like that at 12 years old. And especially as a musician, as a lot, see a live band like that, or orchestra like that, that was always good. Of course, I've seen that before. But yeah, I remember that. Awesome. That's a great memory. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys, just talking about 335. I'm just, everybody's curious as to, and I've gotten that question as, what do I think now? Again, and okay, so let's, and Barry and I talked about this. Let's understand that Gibson 335 is $3,500. Cut no ways Sunday. That's a lot of money. And again, you're not getting the same construction that you're even getting on the Bonamassa. Now I know you say, okay, one's made in China, one's made in the States, okay, but still, 5-ply construction, a true ply, true plate maple construction, the same way they do with the 335s, or they used to in Memphis, or same as a matter of fact, absolutely the same except for in the case this is 5 versus 3. Yeah, at $3,500, holding those two, holding the Gibson and holding this one, it really comes down to really a personal choice at that point. It's up to you. It's not a sound issue. It's not a quality issue because they're damn well the same. It's not a feel issue. As a matter of fact, the Joe Bonamassa felt better. It did. It did. Um, yeah. And so I have to say that no, you can't take the Epiphone 335 and upgrade it. It's not. It's in depth to that because again, it's not the same construction. It's not a one piece neck. It's not a 5-ply body. Um, However, do I think the Epiphone 335 is a great deal? Yes, I do. That Raspberry Burst 335 that I had, I said I was blown away by the quality of it. And like I said, Barry gets great guitars. He's very humble about it, but I think, yeah, I don't know how he does that. It was voodoo. I don't know what it is, but he gets the good ones, the really good ones even within Epiphones. He doesn't. It's not like dealing with Tone Man at all. You know, Tone Man, it's a flip of the dice. With Barry, it's consistently good guitar, and he's got all the spot luthier working there in the shop. So yeah, all his stuff is right, and yeah, I was blown away by that Epiphone 335. And I'd be honest with you, if you're in the market to get a 335, I would get the Epiphone, the standard Epiphone 335, before I got the Gibson, because the standard Epiphone 335 is also a 3-ply. It's maple, maple, maple. It's a 3-ply body. It's not maple, popular maple like the Gibson. Doesn't have a one-piece neck like the Gibson. However, uh, is it it's 25 or more $100 more? I'm sorry, is it $3,000 worth more? No, no, it's insane how much Gibson wants for their 335. It's insane. Seriously, it's again getting back to how I could, again, under the only reason I could comprehend these things is because I was on a morphine drip. You have to be to even have any thought of getting a $3,500 a Gibson 335 at this point. Vintage one, hell yeah, and vintage, by the way, means good, so that means a good one. Bad old guitars are just bad old guitars. A vintage guitar means a good one. And some of us out there, or guys out there, are lucky enough to have great vintage 335s and others. And so power to you. But that price difference, no, I couldn't see the justification. I can't, because then upgrade the Epiphone 335. Put burst burkers in that. You're not getting it's not going to be the same guitar as the Joe, but it'll be in the same ballpark as the Gibson. Does that make sense to you? I'm not saying that the Joe Bonamassa guitar is the end of all the big. Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's kind of an outlier. Kind of an outlier. Do you feel guitars you record in studio should be as high end as possible, while live shows should be more mud level? Uh, um, So I don't know if I told this story. So I had my band in Japan, mid level. I got you. I understood you. So we had a gig that I got called in because a slot opened up, and the guy says, "Can you bring in a band and can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do it." I called the guys up. I said, "We got a show in 2 days. Can we rehearse tomorrow? And can you be ready by Saturday?" They said, "Sure." And my guitar once, so my Telecaster, my Fender Telecaster, Japan went south on me. I sold my Epiphone 339 because it was 95% good as my Gibson 335. Yeah, sometimes you gotta have that 5%. We talked about that. That 5% is no man's land. That's where it comes down to you. Whether you want that or not. There's some things that I'll say I can pass on that 5%, and there's some things that I can't. So I can dig that. There's no shame in that. There's no issue here on this channel with that thought. So no, yeah, and my guitar was kind of went catarwalky on me. I went down to the local pawn shop. I bought a $50 Telecaster. Went up on stage. My bass player had a friggin' fit because he was trying to keep that thing in tune. He's like, and he got out his tools and he's doing all this. He's working with. I'm just I said, just give it to me in tune, And we tore up the stage that night. As a matter of fact, you can see it on YouTube. Just go to my channel, and that red Telecaster. That's a $50 pawn shop. Even in U.S. dollars, probably even less than that at the time. $40, $30, $40 Telecaster. I tore up stage with that thing that night. So would I take it and use it in a recording studio? I tell the story of Skunk Baxter, who got called up by Giorgio Moroder and said, "Look, I got this gig for this chick named Donna Summer. I got this song back called Bad Girls, and all these other tracks. I want you to come down and do the guitar parts for her." And Baxter didn't have guitar. He says, "I don't have guitar." He said, I say he goes down to the Guitar Center in Hollywood and buys a $25 guitar, literally out of a rack of crappy guitars that they're selling for $25. He goes down to A&M Studios and he cuts those tracks with that guitar. Do you need an expensive instrument? No. You need an instrument that stays in tune, that you can play, that works for what you're trying to do, and that's it. Those are the only all the other stuff. No, there's no requirement to needing expensive instruments. The only reason in the studios that I worked in that they had expensive guitars available for rent is because they were old studios, so they always had a surplus from over the years. And so a lot of that equipment was available there, but it's because they had bought it over time. When they bought it, it wasn't vintage, is what I'm trying to say. But for myself, no. You need a good guitar. You need one that stays in tune. You need that has great intonation, that has good fretwork done on it, that does not buzz. You need a set of pickups that are optimal to your whatever your output is, whether that be pedals or rig like this for recording, or through a tube amplifier or a solid state amplifier, and then what speaker you're using. Those are the things, and then what microphone. You just continue to follow that chain into the console, into your recorder. So no, none of that stuff. Those are the two examples that I use from my own personal life and from another musician that I respect, showing that no, cheap guitars. It doesn't really matter. And you, like I said, go to YouTube, look up Mike McWilliams live in Japan. One of those cons, you'll see me with a red Telecaster. That thing was, I bought it 2 days before. Tyler hated that guitar. He's like, man, as soon as this gig is over, get rid of this piece of shit, because it drove him crazy. I'll quickly tune things, but that guy, I had to give him respect. His ear was very good, and I didn't like going out of tune myself. But no, you don't need that. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm not gonna push it too hard. I will say thank you for the people who showed support and wish me well. Means a lot to me. The reason I came out tonight is to talk to you guys. I want to let you know, first of all, I'm not dead. I felt like it when they had me on that gurney and they were wheeling me through that hospital. I'm looking up and I'm seeing hospital lights going, going by, going by, going by. I really thought to myself, man, this is pretty bad. I never thought I'd be in that kind of physical situation, but I didn't give up hope, and I knew that I could dig myself out of that hole. Life has always been about that, man. It's always been about digging yourself out of holes. The secret to getting out of holes is stop digging. You don't want to get yourself in a hole, just stop digging. And it clarified a lot of things into me, and it really showed me uh, the positive feedback that I got from you guys during that period of time. Uh, really sustained me a lot of ways too. Um, Pian Shih Tzu, my good friend, his channel. Guys, if you haven't checked his channel out, oh, please go over his channel. He put up his Christmas light the other day, and I was not feeling well. I was sitting there watching him showing the front of his house, and and to have that. See, I've been away from that kind of Americana for a long time in my life. So even to me to see it, because that's what we did in my neighborhood. All the houses had Christmas lights. Like everybody had their different scenes going up and down the street, man. Something to see, especially in my neighborhood, because the neighborhood and the houses I grew up in my neighborhood, my parents' house is huge. It's huge houses, so it's beautiful. And Pian, she's got a beautiful spread, and lit up with the lights. It really touched me. It made me cheer me up, gave me my first little sense of Christmas cheer for the season. So I appreciate him even doing that, and of course all the well wishes. And I appreciate this coming through, Mickey. I really do, brother. It really is exciting for me to be able to listen, to be able to play a bare knuckle um, pickup. I've really longed to be able to try one of these out, and I couldn't think of a better gift, and I thank you, sir, for that very much. Um, so this week, guys, just give me a few days to recover um, and get my strength back, and I will be reviewing. We're going to talk. We'll get into the footage. We'll get into this 335 a little bit. I do want to talk about it. But one thing I want to say again, this is not what Joe Bonamassa. I want to stress that again, and I don't like. That's the one thing that leaves kind of a bad taste in my mouth about this. So I'm trying to figure out a way if there's any way I can take karma with it, because really that brother wanted these to go to the kids, and I understand. His meaning is he didn't want them to price to the point where they are, but I feel for him on that. I feel that he lost a little something now. That aspect of that is not available to him via this anymore. So I do think about that. I am sensitive to that thought, but certainly, even with it being a case queen, of course I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna play it. I mean, because it's got a beautiful acoustic ring. So we'll get into that. I'll let you guys take a look at it, and you can make up your own mind as to whether or not you feel as though there's any real value there. Um, I traded in my beans for it because I'm kind of rolling the dice. I kind of want to see what happens with this. If over time, if it grows with me, then it's a great 335 to have. I would never buy a Gibson 335, and price wise, this thing fits the bill. Gibsons do give away a lot of guitars stateside to Kids Carry Cheese. Yeah, they sure do. They took a whole lot of guitars and rolled over them with the steamrollers too. They took a whole lot of 335s that were already done, and for insurance purposes took those same guitars. And there's video on YouTube where they've just stepped on the necks and broke them. 335s, all just one after another, snapped the necks, throwing them into trash cans. They could have given those kids to the kids, but it was cheaper to write them off for insurance. So I'm not going to defend them. They do their thing, but there's other things going on, some other skullduggery there as well. So let's not pretend otherwise. But I will say that price wise, you know, Larry Carlton comes out with his, what is it, H7, which is his version of a 335. Um, the construction on that, in my opinion, I got a chance to touch one of those as well. I'll tell you, not at Barry's shop, but at another dealer, and I will say that the Epiphone is superior to that. If I had a choice between the Larry Carlton, although I will say the fretwork on the Larry Carlton H7 is better than on the Epiphone 335. However, I would go with the Epiphone 335 between the two of them. Construction is better. Even though they said that the H7 has an ebony fingerboard, so there's that to think about. But we'll get into that this week. Like I said, I got a lot to talk about, a lot of examples to give. So I will put together a show. I will film myself somehow discussing these things, so you can look forward to that for sure. Again, thank you guys for taking the time to support me during this last week during my illness. It really is good to be able to sit here and talk to you guys a bit. I did miss this last week, and I hope that you guys are doing well. And I will thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we will speak again normal time next week, gentlemen. So it'll be from. Thank you, Mickey. I appreciate it. So normal time next week. We did an hour early this week. I can do the. So we'll start at our normal time next week at 11. So I appreciate you guys coming a little earlier this week. You guys take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.